F you money. If you're close to me and I'm noticing that behavior, you're done. Loyalty without alignment is just a slow leak in your peace. Get thee away from me. It's a trap, girl. Do not do it. Oh my God, girl, don't do it. You've lost the plot. I do think with royalty and whatnot as women. I spent my 20s and 30s learning lessons that cost me my peace, my time, and honestly, parts of me that I'm still trying to find my way back to this day. And I'm in my 40s. These aren't lessons that were taught in a school. They were literally taught in the trenches of life, girl. And I figured, what better way to give back to my girls than to let you guys know lessons that I have learned in my 20s and 30s that you don't have to, honey, okay? I'm gonna save you the heartache. I'm gonna save you the time wasted, the pain, and the disappointment, all in this video. So this is like a little girls' night in, so please like grab you a glass of wine. You can do some tea like I am doing and put on your pajamas, get super duper comfy. We're relaxing because I really want you guys to dig in and really hear the message in this. I really do feel like it's our duty as we get older and we learn lessons to share these lessons with the women who are coming up, because I hate to tell you, the only way you're going to figure out this thing called life is to live life. And a lot of times you're going to go through things that aren't so fun in order to learn these lessons. If I can help one of my girls out by sharing some of the lessons that I've learned, then I need to do that. Feel free to just take the things that you resonate with and leave the things that you don't. Who girl? Okay, let's start with the one that cost me most of my time. Building my entire identity around being chosen by a man. It's like you become a one-woman construction crew, building, bending, breaking yourself, trying to prove that you're the one. You do things like you start studying him like he's a final exam. You learn his love language, his communication style, his childhood wounds, and then you want to fix them too, don't you? I already know you want to fix those childhood wounds. You become fluent in him while forgetting the language of you. And while you're doing all of this emotional labor, trying to prove you're enough for him, you completely forget to prove that you're enough for you. I was making decisions around what would make me more attractive, more desirable, more wifeable. There was a time where I even curated my personality to a degree, turning down certain parts of myself because I felt like it would be like too much or too intimidating. And this was like in my early 20s. And then suddenly, I was lost on somebody else's map, wondering why nothing felt like home. And it's because I wasn't building a home. I was building like a showroom, so to speak. It's like everything was staged for someone else's approval. So here's what I learned in a lesson in this. You are not a renovation project for a man who cannot see your blueprint. You gotta stop performing. You gotta stop auditioning. The right person won't need you to shrink, translate, or transform. They'll just need you to show up as you. And I'm really happy that I learned this lesson super early on because I was more authentically myself, and it helped me better align with partners that were just better suited for me, even the ones that didn't work out. I really let fear run the show for decades. And honestly, this has been one of the most detrimental things, I think, to my growth and my ascension when it comes to me being my best self, was just letting fear run the show. I spent years just being afraid of everything, afraid of being seen, afraid of being judged, afraid of failing, afraid of succeeding, afraid of what others might think. And honestly, it stopped me from growing. And the thing about fear is it's real sneaky, okay? Because sometimes fear shows up in ways that make you feel like it's not you being scared, it's that you're being practical. And you're less willing to take certain risks because you're banking on something else happening. You're always looking for a plan B. And I'm not saying a plan B is a bad thing, but I know I relied heavily on sure shots, and I had more faith in stability instead of taking risks on true passions of mine and a lot of the dreams and goals that I had. And I feel like throughout my 20s and my 30s, God blessed me with multiple multi-million dollar ideas. I can say that with full confidence. I literally have come across and been blessed with several multi-million dollar ideas that I was just too afraid to move on, too afraid to take the risk. Some would have required me to maybe quit my job and go all in. And that's a fear. That's a fear that's dressed up as being practical. And like I said, it's okay to be practical and it's okay to be realistic. But those fears stopped me from moving on things that would have changed my life forever, changed my family's life forever. And while I still am very happy with where I am today and glad that I've been able to get here, the only reason why I am here right now is because I stopped allowing fear to control my life and I started betting on myself. I started banking on myself and saying, you know what, give it a try, risk it all, and just see what happens. And I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that I had an idea, that I put the work in, and I worked that idea no matter what the cost. I wasn't afraid to invest in myself. I wasn't afraid to invest in education, to learn things. I wasn't afraid to spend time learning things, saying no to certain things so that way I could concentrate on my dream, because it all really paid off for me in the end. And what I want to say to anybody who has a dream, it's supposed to feel scary. It's supposed to feel scary, but I'm going to tell you this. This is how you know when you go all in on something. If you are blessed with a spontaneous idea, it's literally a gift from God, and it is absolutely your duty to act on it. It's literally almost like, hey, here's this idea. If you start to act on it, I will clear the path for you. So yeah, I wasted so much time in my 20s and 30s just watching life go by out of fear. So take it from me, girl. You got an idea, you better work that idea. There's never going to be the right time to do something. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be a bump in the road or something, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't still pursue it. Okay, so another lesson that I had to learn the hard way is thinking that I was going to be able to gain confidence in myself by doing things only on the outside. I did seem to think that, oh, if I wore my hair like this, or if I had this particular outfit, or if my makeup looked like this, or whatever these things were, then the confidence would come. And it wasn't until literally my late 30s that I realized that confidence comes when you start keeping promises to yourself. Confidence isn't a destination, it's a practice. You build confidence by keeping promises to yourself, by showing up for yourself even when you don't want to, by doing things that scare you and surviving it. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to have confidence in yourself because you can see yourself overcoming things, proving to yourself over and over and over that you are absolutely capable. And that goes in all aspects. That's confidence in self, confidence in you doing particular things, a job, a skill, a business, whatever it may be. That confidence is only going to come with you showing up for yourself time and time and time again. Now, don't get me wrong. When you look good, you feel good. But the type of confidence that I'm talking about isn't just about what you look like. The real confidence really lies within, and that comes from showing up for yourself. That was a major lesson for me to learn, because there were times that I looked absolutely incredible, stunning, amazing. I was that girl, and I still wasn't confident. And I wasn't confident because I was still afraid of doing a lot of things. I still wasn't showing up for myself consistently. I was still breaking promises to myself consistently. And how could you be confident in yourself when you're doing all of those things? The two don't go hand in hand, baby. They just don't. Confidence doesn't start from the outside in. It starts from the inside out. And you can build confidence brick by brick by showing up for yourself. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for permission from your insecurities. The version of you that has it all figured out, she don't exist, baby. But the version of you that always shows up messy, imperfect, and committed, she's unstoppable. Be her. Okay, so the next lesson, this has been a major one. I will say it's one that I'm not gonna say I still struggle with, but because it has been a serious trauma of mine, I have to remind myself over and over and over and over again about this particular thing. And it's pretty much dimming your light to be likable. Don't do that, girl. Don't do that. I am a people pleaser through and through. If you are the type of girl who shrinks yourself, dims your light because you notice that when you are shining bright, others around you immediately start to feel uncomfortable, insecure, start to make judgment or look at you crazy. So you immediately start to like shrink. I'm going to say this and I need you to hear me very well. Anyone that is in your circle that is making you feel like that is not hyping you up, that is not tooting your horn, they're not your people. Cut them loose. You don't need to be liked by everyone. It is okay. You need to love yourself way more than your desire to be liked by everyone. At the end of the day, these people do not have to live your life, and they will shrink you and dim you to a point where you've accomplished nothing, but they will still expect you to toot their horn and hype them up when they are doing well. Pay attention and open up your eyes and realize that the people who are for you are going to gas you up. They are going to root for you. They're going to hype you up. They're going to like everything that you do, and they're going to support everything that you do. They're going to be excited when you're doing stuff. They're going to be inspired when you're doing stuff. But if you notice any negativity, even in the slightest bit, if you're just sitting in your authenticity, being your authentic self, you need to be aware, you need to pay attention to this. Because I wanted to not make people feel down, I had this thing was like, oh, but wait, you're great too. You know, that was my mentality. And it's still my mentality. I'm still right now, if I came across that right now, I'm probably still going to tend to go into the mode where I see that and go to immediately lift that other woman's chin and make sure she knows that she is just as incredible as the next person. And that's always going to be me. I always want that to be me. I don't think that's ever going to change. I actually love that about myself. But what I won't do is apologize for who I am. And I'm no longer that person that so badly wants to be liked that I'm willing to be friends with someone who's not happy for me or who's not going to at least, you know, root for me instead of just like low key hating on me. I'm not that desperate for friends. Like, I'm cool on that. I've got a best friend. I don't need friends that damn bad. So I'm not going to dim my light for anybody. I'm going to authentically be me, and I'm always going to shine, because me dimming my light for so long held me back from so many opportunities. And I'm learning now to walk with my head held high and be the person that I was destined to be. And even though it can sometimes feel very scary because I'm still dealing with that trauma, I'm just willing to let people go that are making me feel like that. If you've got a problem with me being me, that's not my problem. That's not my issue. If you're close to me and I'm noticing that behavior, you're done. If you've struggled with that, if you're like a natural people pleaser, or if you've been dimming your light, comment about that below and let me know. Because am I the only one? Have you dealt with that? Like, let's chit chat about scenarios where you've found out that your friend was a straight hater. Now, what I can say that I wish that I did in my 20s, when I was so heavily plagued by that trauma of dimming my light and not being my best self for fear that people wouldn't like me, was go to therapy. I wish back then that I took the time to go to therapy and work that out, because I do feel like I would have been so much farther in life. But I was so afraid that therapy would be super expensive. And then the times in which I did try, I would pick up the phone and call, and I would always get hit with things like they're not taking any new clients, or there were really long wait times. And this is the reason why I'm so happy that Growth Therapy exists. And I'm so happy to be working with them again for today's video. Growth Therapy is actually making mental health care so much more accessible than it was when I was thinking about doing it. If you were like how I am and you're thinking about therapy but got stuck in the logistics of it, here's what makes Grow completely different. You can book appointments in as little as 2 days, nights and weekends included. So there's no 6-month waiting list or we'll call you when we have an opening. You actually get to choose your therapist based on what matters to you most: identity, gender, language, faith, specialty, and you can do virtual or in person. And if your choice isn't the right fit, girl, you can just switch. No awkward conversations, zero guilt. Now, here's what really surprised me. With insurance, your sessions could cost as little as $21, and depending on your plan, sometimes it could be even less. They work with over 100 insurance plans and even Medicaid in some states. And a lot of platforms do not offer that. And there's no subscription, no hidden commitments, you just pay per session. Everything is so transparent. You see credentials, bios, specialty all up front, no blind matches. You know exactly who you're going to meet with before you even book. So to learn more about Growth Therapy, head to the link in the description or scan the QR code here on the screen for a quicker way to get support and find a therapist. Sometimes the best investment you can make in yourself is your mental well-being, and Grow makes that investment actually possible. And once again, thank you so much to Growth Therapy for sponsoring today's video. So one of the next lessons that I learned, which was kind of a hard lesson to learn, but it's knowing when to let go of toxic friendships. I feel like when we're in toxic relationships, we tend to really want to get out of things like that. But when you're friends with someone, you start to think of how long you've been friends, whether you were friends in high school, in college, things like that. Or you start to think of good times. It happens a lot, you guys, where you start to really push behaviors that really don't align with who you are as a person, that's holding you back, and you're holding on to them for the sake of loyalty. I don't do that anymore. If I have a friend that's draining me mentally, or we don't align, we don't have the same morals, the same ethics, I cannot be your friend. I cannot be your friend. There's just some people I cannot be friends with. I can't be friends with women who talk about other friends. I'm sorry, get thee away from me. Also, if you are friends with someone where something bad is always happening to them, life is always just down and out and bad, all the time, I need you to understand that that type of person who's always coming to you because things are so bad often, it's always something. They're always making the same mistakes. They have the same patterns, and those things are resulting in so many negative things happening, and they're coming and dumping that on you. That is quite literally draining you, and you need to really reconsider that type of a friendship. Honestly, you are who you hang around to a certain degree. I say that lightly because you could know people from so many different walks of life and not necessarily be like that person. The person who's very close in your circle does speak to who you are to a certain degree though. So be sure that you don't mind that person being a representation of who you are, because people use that person as a representation of how you might also be. If you have a toxic friend, I think you need to open your eyes and look at the bigger picture and realize that you could be being held back by opportunities or being in situations that you really don't want to be because this person doesn't make really good decisions. Loyalty without alignment is just a slow leak in your peace. If the energy is off, it's off, even if you've known that person for 15 years. Also, you don't always have to forgive bad behavior. And you can forgive it, but you could forgive it and then move on. That person doesn't have to remain in your life. You can forgive and move on. You can forgive and not be angry. You can forgive and not want to retaliate, but also just move on. I am really good at that. I have never ever wished ill on anybody who has done me wrong. I made the mistake of befriending someone again that I had previously cut off because I realized they weren't the type of friend that was helping me grow, elevate. We didn't have the same mindset. And a lot of times I was put in really crazy situations because of her bad decisions. And even though I didn't necessarily want to and I was really apprehensive, so much time had went by that I opened up lines of communication with her again, and she did something to prove just why I cut her off to begin with. And it's a situation where I will never ever in my entire life be friends with this person again. I do not care what happens. I don't care what's going on in their life. I can feel bad if something is going on in their life, which I actually have. If something happens, or if there's a death in the family and I hear it, through the grapevine or through somebody else, I'm always so empathetic, but I'm not picking up the phone to call you and to open up the lines of communication. When you're done, you're done. And I realize that my life has elevated so much by cutting off people that I recognize are just not the type of friends that I want to be around all the time. Because if they're draining me, how can I be my best self? I can't. So you have to really look at your circle of friends and figure out the people who are worth going on this journey of life with. Are they holding you up? Are they good friends? Are they toxic? Are they making such bad decisions that when you're around them, those decisions are bleeding on you? You need to really, really look at that. If you wouldn't stay with a toxic man, do not stay with a toxic friend. You're allowed to outgrow people. You're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to curate your circle based on who you're becoming and not who you used to be. So let's get into the next lesson that I learned. It's about confusing potential with compatibility, and why falling in love with it is quite literally one of the most expensive mistakes that you can make. I'd meet a guy and see not who he was, but who he had the potential to be. And I'd invest in that vision. I'd coach him, encourage him, and wait for him to be the man that I knew that he could be. Girl, I was out here running a whole personal development program for men who didn't even ask to enroll. The thing about potential is it's your projection. It's your vision, not his reality. And you cannot love someone into their potential. That is so not how transformation works. And it will waste your time if you fall into that trap. Compatibility is about who someone is right now, not who they might become in 3 years if everything goes perfectly. It's about shared values, aligned goals, and mutual effort. Potential is a maybe, compatibility is a yes. So date people for who they are, not who you think they'll become. It's a trap, girl. Do not do it. Oh my God, girl, don't do it. You really truly do deserve someone who's ready now, not someone that you have to wait for. I don't care how fine he is. I don't care if he's 6'2". You cannot fall into the trap of what could be. You need to be like, this is what I'd like. Does this person have these things? Because this is what would make us compatible. If the answer is no, girl, move on. And then have faith that what's for you is for you, and you do not need to settle. This isn't about having some perfect curated list of 101 things that a person needs to have, but the morals, the values, there's certain things that gotta align. You don't have to coach someone into treating you well. That's not how that works. And I'm telling you, you will save yourself years of time wasted if you stop dating for potential and start dating for compatibility. Let's move into the next lesson, and this was a major one, is centering men. I will say that I centered men in the past, and I ain't never doing it again. I will never do that again, okay? Making men the main character, and also just making men the main character way too early in the story, is such a bad idea, and a lesson that I had to learn the hard way. You gotta stop making men the main character in your story before they've even earned a speaking role. They cannot. I would meet someone that I really like, and then I would center everything around that person. My schedule, my decisions, my future. And a lot of times when we're doing all of these things, they aren't always necessarily thinking of us in the same way. They don't have those same considerations because it's so early. And when we're doing this, it's because this person is desirable to us. And we got to think about the things that we're looking at as being desirable. And that was something that was very important for me. I see things so much differently now. And what looks good on paper isn't necessarily what's going to make me act a particular way anymore. Taking the time to get to know people first is so important. Taking your time is so incredibly important because you need to give men a little bit of time to thaw out. When you first meet them, they are going to put on the best show in the world. Your actions are going to align with the show that they're putting on. So you're going to start making decisions based on this show, based on this play, based on this strategy that they've come up with to hook you, that you're going to be just rearranging and doing things. And I did that, not taking the time to actually get to know them. Big mistake. I feel like it's very important for you to realize that you are the main character, not that guy. When you start to make the guy the main character in the story, you've lost the plot. You've lost the plot. And this isn't to say that you are selfish or rude and act like, you need to bow down. I'm not saying that, because I don't believe that either. If you stick around long enough, you will realize that it's so important for me as a human to just be a very good person, to be a loving person, to be a giving person, an understanding person. And I don't think that you go into relationships with your nose up, like bow down, although I do think we're royalty and whatnot as women. However, I do think that there's a way to play it very gracefully, where you can position yourself as the main character, as the one who needs to be proven that that person is worthy of that love and nurturing that you will do for them in the event that they are worth it. They've got to be worth it. So when you go into a situation so early on, doing all the things, rearranging all the things and sacrificing everything and being at somebody's beck and call, like dropping everything to go be with them, that's where you lose it. Men are paying attention to these things, whether we like to hear it or not. They are paying attention to these things. And when you do things like this super quick, you might find yourself in a situation where you're dealing with a narcissist, okay? A narcissist does a really good job of seeking out women who are givers or who are very empathetic, empaths. And they'll see like, wow, she's willing to do and bend and all these things for me. And they're putting on a show. They have on a mask, mind you, and they'll love bomb you, and they're gonna say and do all the little things. And then when they've got you in their grips, the mask comes down and it's too late because you are trapped. So take the time to get to know people. Make sure that you're not in a hurry. That was probably one of my biggest lessons that I needed to learn, was to take my time and not move so quickly to make the man the main character in my story. Huge lesson for me to learn. I'm not going to be the one to tell people what to do, but let me just tell you the lesson that I've learned time and time again when it comes to relationships. People can act really, really well. People act really, really well, and there is a such thing as love bombing. The problem with love bombing is it's very difficult for you to detect. One, if you don't love yourself enough, and so you are taken aback by all of this love, by this guy who's so willing to do all these things. But a man who's pushing for a relationship super early on, like within a week or two, like wanting to completely wife you up, move in, talking about children, and they haven't gotten to know you and you haven't gotten to know them, it might seem like a fairy tale come true, especially if these are all things that you've desired, but you need to run things back through your mind and think to yourself whether or not you have verbalized that these are things that you desired. Because if you have verbalized, if you have talked about, if you have posted, this is the kind of man that I want, these are the things that I desire, they're going to show up as that character for you. And they're going to show it very quickly, and they're going to move very quickly. The thing about that is, you're going to be so taken in by those grand gestures that by the time they take the mask off, you're just going to be like, but I love you so much. Like, you're going to be blinded. It's going to take you so long to realize that that person that you fell in love with never existed to begin with. So do not give them the playbook. Get to know them first. Take your time. There's absolutely no rush. There is no rush. You have one life. Do not waste years of your life with someone who can potentially throw you into a depression because they're quite literally sucking the life out of you because you're in a hurry to be loved. Love yourself first before you go looking for love. I need you guys to really lock in for this one. This is a really important one. And this is neglecting financial independence. In this day and age in social media, people will have you thinking that the ultimate goal is for you to marry or date someone with an immense amount of money and that you can sit back, chill, relax, and just get taken care of. And while that sounds amazing, that sounds wonderful, you always are going to need your own money. The reason why I say this is because you cannot control anybody but yourself. And in the event something in that relationship goes wrong, you need to be financially independent enough to be like, I'm out. You need FU money, okay? You need that money that lets you say, I ain't got to deal with this. Deuces, I'm out. And I'm telling you, there's no feeling like being somewhere that you don't want to be and financially not being able to leave it. Having to take disrespect, abuse even, because some people are taking abuse, okay? Or just being significantly unhappy and you're only there because you can't afford to leave. Do not let social media fool you. Yes, I think marrying somebody or dating somebody who is well off and well to do is a great thing. It's an amazing thing. But you also need to make sure that you are financially independent and that in the event you need to leave, you can still take care of yourself and you can still keep up your lifestyle. Do not sit back and twiddle your fingers and not have some sort of goal, business, job, career. It's okay to go to work and it's okay to run a business. It truly is. And even for my stay-at-home moms, I am telling you, find a way to do a little part-time something at home business-wise. You can still mother and love your kids at home. Try your best to make sure that you are okay. Because if that man decides to get up and leave, and they do, protect yourself. I don't think I really realized how important it was for me to be doing well enough that if I needed to leave my situation, I could without worrying about where the next meal was gonna come from or how I was gonna pay the bills. So please, we all should be working. We all should have something on the side. We all should have a little fund, a bank account, a savings account, something, because there's no greater feeling than leaving a situation you no longer want to be in because you have the money. Money gives you the power to leave situations that are no longer serving you. If you let another person have all the power, a lot of times they're going to take advantage of that. So do not risk it. I don't care how great your man is. The thing is, you cannot control that man, and you have no idea. You have no idea. I think it's very naive to think that your man will never do it to you. Putting that much trust into another being that is not yourself is a lesson I don't want you to learn that lesson, honey. I'm telling you, because any man that I have been with that has done me wrong, I have felt that man would never do me wrong. Okay? We all think that way. You're not the only one thinking that way, okay? I wholeheartedly, sincerely thought there were several people that I dated that I never, ever, ever, ever thought in a million years would do the things that they've done to me. So be prepared. Financial independence is key, and you should always, always, always have your own money. You need to love yourself before you ever go looking for love. Fall in love with yourself. Learn to be alone with yourself. Learn to enjoy your own company. Because I'm telling you, when you're not pressed to be in the presence of another man, when you start to decenter men where you're not so pressed to be in the presence of a man, what happens is when you do meet a man and you see a red flag that you realize is messing with your peace, it's nothing for you to be like, I'm good on that. I'm good on that. I've been too peaceful for too long. I enjoy my own company. I can travel by myself. I can go on my dates on my own. That you're not going to be willing to deal with the bare minimum. You're not going to be willing to deal with the disrespect. You're not going to be willing to let people cross your boundaries. And life will be a lot more peaceful. Learn to love yourself before you ever go looking for love. It's the best way, I think, to go into a relationship. Heal yourself, heal your wounds. That way, when you are open for love, you can just go into it ready to get to know someone without all of the bricks being all high, because you know how to spot red flags. You know how to spot disrespect. You know when somebody's crossing your boundaries, and you never give them another opportunity to cross them. That is the best way to live. Love yourself first, and everything will fall into place. So yeah, you guys, that is pretty much it. These are all of the lessons that I have learned throughout my 20s and my 30s. I think that have been good lessons for me to learn, although I do feel like I wasted quite a bit of time. I wish somebody would have told me these things earlier, and I hope that some of these were helpful for you. And if you resonate with any of these, please leave a comment down below. Leave a comment of the lessons that you've learned coming up in your 20s and in your 30s. I think it's so important for us to turn around and hold the hands of the women behind us, just so that way they know they're not alone and they don't have to try to figure this thing out blindly, okay? So if this is your first time here, hey girl, hey, I hope you consider subscribing, liking, and hitting the bell notification so that way you're alerted every single time I upload a new video. But yeah, other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Mwah.
I might just call and catch a play. I might just come see you today. You wait, I'm stuck up in my ways.